Welcome back to The Bible is Art, where we explore the literary artistry of the Bible. And in this week, we're going to explore the three fascinating things that Matthew does with women in his genealogy in Matthew chapter 1. In a previous video, we saw how there are two steps to understanding genealogies. Briefly, the first thing you do is find the pattern of the genealogy. And second, you look for how the author breaks that pattern. So first, the pattern that Matthew creates is that he follows the family by the male head of the household. So you have a man who fathered his son, another man who fathers another man. That's the pattern. But in 4 places, Matthew will break that pattern. That is, he will include 4 women. But the break in the pattern is even more unexpected because he doesn't include the women we are expecting. Matthew does include many of the males we were expecting from reading the story up to this point in the Bible. So we have people like David and Judah and Abraham, famous people. And if that pattern continued, we would expect all of the great matriarchs to be included when he decides to include women, like Sarah or Abigail, but none of them are included. Now, this is very strange. Imagine if you were reading your family tree and when it came time to list the wives, all of the most popular ones were missing, and the other less popular family members were included instead. You would either think that there was a mistake, or whoever composed the family tree had a reason, a purpose for doing this. So, what's Matthew's purpose? Who does Matthew include and why? Well, Matthew includes Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, and Bathsheba. Now, before we talk about why Matthew does this, we have to remember what the purpose of this genealogy is. And that is, it's designed to characterize, to teach us about who Jesus is and what his kingdom is like. The genealogy is not here to tell us about the people listed in the genealogy. So what is it about these women that tell us about Jesus? There are 3 important things. First, 3 of these women were Gentiles, and 1 was married to a Gentile. Tamar and Rahab were Canaanites, Ruth was a Moabite, and Bathsheba was married to a Hittite. So Jesus is both Jew and Gentile. Second, they're women. Women were not typically included in genealogies, not because they were unimportant or not included in Israel, but Jesus and his kingdom will somehow reach out or include women in a different or fuller sort of way. And third, and most fascinating, these women are all connected to some sort of sexually questionable behavior. Tamar disguises herself and tricks Judah into sleeping with her, thus impregnating her. Rahab was a prostitute. Ruth snuck into bed with a man and told him to do whatever he liked. And Bathsheba slept with David while he was married. On the surface, you might think that these are all sexual sinners. But notice that I said they were all connected to some sexually questionable behavior, not necessarily sexual sinful behavior. There's a question here. There's a difference between what appears on the surface and what is the reality in the depth. Let's think about these women again. Tamar tricks Judah into impregnating her because that was his duty and he wasn't doing it. Or, more properly, Judah was Tamar's father-in-law. She was married to his son, and her husband, his son, died. And Judah refused to give another of his sons to her. So Judah wasn't doing his duty to provide a husband and a son, so Tamar takes it into her own hands, forcing him into his proper duty. Rahab was a prostitute, but she used her brothel as a place of protection for the Israelites. And more than that, she was one of the few Canaanites that converted to the God of Israel. And regarding Bathsheba, while she was complicit in the affair with David, it's interesting that the narrator of Samuel lays the blame on David as the man with extraordinary power and authority. The narrator characterizes Bathsheba as a woman of high purity, introducing her as cleansing herself from ritual impurity. She was a victim of David's sexual appetite. And while Ruth did sneak into bed with Boaz, she was doing so to provide a provider and a child for her mother-in-law, Naomi. In our secular age, we don't associate sex with marriage, but in a biblical worldview, sex is the act that creates the marriage. So Ruth offering herself to Boaz is her offering marriage and a son for Naomi because Naomi's husband died. So the fascinating thing about most of these women is that they have an appearance of immorality, but when you investigate those situations, they are actually women of great virtue, holiness, and understanding. Matthew includes these women with these situations because of two reasons. First, this prepares us for Mary and her situation. She will also find herself in a situation where it appears that she has been sexually improper, whereas in reality she is a woman of the highest holiness. Second, and even more deeply, Jesus' whole ministry will take this same shape. That is, it will appear time and time again that Jesus is doing improper things, wrong, sinful things, whereas in reality they are the greatest acts. Do you ever notice that the scribes, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees don't just think that Jesus is doing something that's of minor importance? They often think that Jesus is doing evil things, breaking the law. For instance, Jesus will be told that he shouldn't be baptized, that he shouldn't forgive sins, eat with sinners and tax collectors, cast out demons, eat and drink, work on the Sabbath, eat without washing hands, receive praise, or talk about destroying the temple, and much, much more. So notice what's going on. The things that Jesus does have the appearance of sinfulness to some, but they are actually the greatest acts of holiness. They have the same moral shape as the women in the genealogy. You see, Israel has gotten so bad in the time of Jesus that they're in the same state as they were at the end of Israel in Isaiah. Isaiah 5:20 says, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil." And this is the very thing that the people did to the women and Jesus. And that, my friends, is Matthew's genealogical art. Thank you, everyone, for checking out the video this week. Thank you very much. If you'd like to support the channel, that'd be wonderful. I would love it. You can do that at www.patreon.com/thebibleisart. You can check out my website at thebibleisart.com and email and Twittering things in the description. Thank you so much.